Chosen one, there is a moment that often goes unnoticed. The moment when the pressure does not intensify, but quietly lifts, as if something unseen has shifted its weight off your shoulders. Nothing dramatic happens, no announcement, just a subtle change, and if you are not paying attention, it can be easy to miss. Many expect that passing a test will feel obvious, clear, like a door opening wide in front of you. Yet more often it unfolds differently. Something inside begins to settle before anything outside begins to shift. The noise reduces, the urgency softens. What once felt heavy no longer presses with the same force. That quiet change carries meaning. God's tests are rarely announced, and their completion is often just as quiet. James 1 verse 12 speaks into this with clarity. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Endurance is not loud, it is steady. It is shown through alignment under pressure, not perfection in performance. The reward is certain, but the moment of transition is often subtle. Many look for visible closure, a clear signal that the season has ended, yet God often marks completion through internal release. A tension that once stayed with you begins to fade. A resistance that once felt constant no longer holds the same weight. That absence is not accidental. It reflects change that has already taken place. 1 Peter 5 verse 10 reveals how this formation happens. But the God of all grace, who hath called us unto his eternal glory by Christ Jesus, after that you have suffered a while, make you perfect, establish, strengthen, settle you. Strength and stability are developed through the process, not apart from it. What emerges is not just relief, but a deeper grounding. Growth is measured in how you respond when stretched, not in how quickly circumstances shift. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 reminds you, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. That includes the quiet completion of a test, a transition that may not be visible, yet is fully real. What feels like a simple release may actually be confirmation that something within you has already been strengthened and established. Friend, a familiar pressure returns, but something about it feels different this time. You recognize the situation, the tone, the tension, the subtle pull to react the way you always have. Yet instead of being swept into it, you feel a small but noticeable space open within you, a pause. Not forced, not calculated. Just there, quiet, steady, present. That space begins to reveal something deeper than the situation itself. It shows that change has already taken place within you. Growth often becomes visible in repetition. The same kind of challenge appears again, not to trap you, but to reveal what has shifted. What once stirred urgency begins to lose its grip. Emotional reactions that used to rise instantly start to soften. You are not suppressing anything. You are responding differently because something inside you has been reshaped. This is where the words of Galatians 5 verse 22 to 23 begin to take form in real life. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. These qualities are not sudden arrivals. They develop quietly, forming responses that feel unfamiliar at first, yet increasingly natural over time. I noticed this shift in a moment that would have once pulled me into frustration without hesitation. A conversation turned sharp, and the familiar tension rose in my chest. In the past, I would have responded quickly, trying to defend or correct. That instinct was still there, but something interrupted it. I felt the urge, yet I did not follow it. Instead, I listened, I waited. That pause felt unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, as if I were stepping into unknown territory. But in that moment, I realized the situation had not changed. I had what once controlled me no longer held the same authority. This kind of transformation does not happen on the surface. It begins in places no one else can see. God reshapes the inner life first, adjusting how you process, how you discern, how you respond. External circumstances may remain the same for a time, yet your internal posture shifts. That shift becomes the evidence. Proverbs 4 verse 23 speaks directly into this reality. Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. When your inner world is guarded and renewed, your outward responses begin to reflect that change naturally. Freedom often starts in this quiet way. Not through immediate breakthroughs, but through steady transformation in how you carry what once felt overwhelming. You begin to notice that situations no longer define your reactions. The urgency fades, the need to control every outcome weakens. In its place, a different kind of stability grows. You are no longer reacting out of habit. You are responding alignment. What makes this shift so powerful is its subtlety. It does not announce itself loudly. It shows up in moments that could easily be overlooked. A calmer tone, a delayed response, a decision to remain grounded instead of escalating. These are not small things. They are signs that something within you has matured. The test was never only about the situation. It was about what that situation revealed in you. As this internal strength develops, you begin to move differently. Not because everything around you has improved, but because you are no longer controlled by what once dictated your reactions. That kind of freedom cannot be taken from you. It has been formed through process, shaped through pressure, and established through quiet obedience. From that place, your movement begins to change as it begins to happen, no longer feeling like something you have to force into existence. The same desire to move forward is still present, but the urgency that once drove every decision begins to quiet down. You notice it in small ways first. You are not rushing to respond. You are not chasing every possibility. Instead, there is a steadiness forming beneath your actions, as if something is holding the process together beyond your own effort. That shift can feel unfamiliar. You were used to equating movement with pressure. If something was not happening, you pushed harder. If a door did not open, you tried another angle. But alignment introduces a different rhythm. It invites you to trust that what is meant for you will not require constant striving to sustain it. This is where Matthew 6 verse 33 begins to carry deeper meaning. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. The focus changes before the results do. You begin to prioritize alignment over urgency, and in that shift, things start to come together in ways you could not have forced. Opportunities begin to match who you have become, not just what you have been asking for. That difference matters. You are no longer reaching for things that stretch you beyond readiness. Instead, what appears feels connected to what has already been formed within you. Timing starts to feel less random, less delayed, more intentional. Psalm 90 verse 17 speaks into this reality with clarity. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. What is unfolding is not just opportunity, it is establishment. Something is being made steady, not just initiated. There is also a noticeable change in how you approach these moments. You are not trying to prove yourself in every room. You are not overextending to secure approval or control outcomes. Instead, you move with a quiet confidence that does not need to announce itself. That confidence is not built on certainty of results. It is rooted in alignment. You trust the process because you can feel that it is no longer dependent on your ability to force it forward. Recognition often follows this kind of quiet consistency. Not immediately, not loudly, but steadily. What has been developed in unseen places begins to carry weight in visible spaces. People begin to notice. Doors begin to open. Not because you demanded them, but because something in you has been prepared to walk through them. Revelation 3 verse 8 captures this moment with precision. I know your works. See, I have set before you an open door, and no one can shut it. The door is not something you break through. It is something placed before you. And what has been built within you allows you to recognize it without hesitation. Forward movement begins to feel supported rather than resisted. You still take action, but it no longer feels like you are pushing against constant resistance. The weight has shifted. You are not carrying the outcome alone. There is a sense that what is unfolding is being guided, not just managed. That changes how you move. It changes how you decide. It even changes how you wait. Friend, a decision appears in a moment where no one else would notice the outcome. It is quiet, almost invisible. No audience, no pressure, no immediate consequence either way. Yet something within you recognizes that this moment matters more than it seems. Not because of what it changes externally, but because of what it reveals internally. This is where testing often reaches its deepest level. Not in public spaces where actions are seen and affirmed, but in hidden places where choices are made without recognition. Integrity begins to show itself when the outcome is not tied to reward, approval, or even acknowledgement. You are not choosing what is right because it benefits you. You are choosing it because it aligns with who you have become. Luke 16 verse 10 brings clarity to this kind of moment. He who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. What seems small is not small at all. These quiet decisions carry weight because they reveal consistency. They show whether your values hold steady when nothing is at stake externally. During a small community event setup, a volunteer noticed extra supplies left unaccounted for after everything had been organized, boxes of materials, still sealed, placed near the exit. No one was tracking them. No one would have questioned if they quietly took some for personal use. It would have been easy, convenient, unnoticed. Yet they paused, not because they feared being caught, but because something deeper guided the decision. They gathered the items, returned them to the coordinator, and mentioned the oversight. The response was brief, a simple thank you, no announcement, no recognition, just a quiet correction. That moment carried inconvenience. It required time, effort, and a willingness to give up what could have been taken without consequence. Yet it also revealed something important. Integrity had become internal. It was no longer dependent on visibility. Proverbs 11 verse 3 speaks directly into this kind of choice. The integrity of the upright will guide them, but the perversity of the unfaithful will destroy them. Guidance does not always come through clear instructions. Sometimes it comes through a steady internal alignment that directs your steps even when no one else is watching. You begin to realize that these moments are not interruptions. They are confirmations. They show what governs your decisions, whether you are led by convenience or by conviction, whether you are shaped by opportunity or by alignment. This is where character is formed in a way that cannot be imitated. It is tested quietly, but it becomes strong enough to hold responsibility later. Colossians 3 verse 23 brings another layer of understanding. And whatever you do, do it heartily, as to the Lord and not to men. When your actions are directed towards something higher than human recognition, consistency becomes natural. You are not adjusting your behavior based on who is watching. You are grounded in something that does not change with the environment. What makes this kind of integrity powerful is its consistency. It does not depend on the size of the decision. It shows up in small things repeated over time. Each quiet choice reinforces the next. Each unseen act strengthens the foundation being built within you. Over time, that foundation becomes reliable, not because it has been tested once, but because it has been proven consistently in places where it would have been easier to compromise. Alignment begins to matter more than advantage. You are no longer asking what you can gain. You are paying attention to what is right. That shift changes how you move, how you decide, and how you respond when faced with similar moments again. Waiting continues, but something inside no longer reacts the same way. The timeline has not shifted, the outcome has not arrived, yet the tension that once filled every quiet moment begins to ease. You still care about what you are waiting for, but it no longer controls your thoughts the way it used to. That change does not happen suddenly. It forms gradually, often without you noticing it at first. Delay has a way of revealing what you trust. Not just what you say you believe, but what you lean on when nothing is moving. In earlier stages, waiting can feel like pressure. Your mind races ahead, trying to solve, predict, or accelerate what has not yet unfolded. You replay conversations. You imagine different outcomes. You search for something to hold on to. But over time, something begins to settle. The urgency to control timing starts to loosen. I reached a point where what I had been hoping for still had not changed. The situation remained unresolved, and there were no clear signs of movement. In the past, that would have pulled me into overthinking. I would have tried to find a way to push things forward, even subtly. But this time felt different. The thoughts were still there, but they did not carry the same weight. I noticed I was no longer reacting to them in the same way. I could let them pass without needing to act on them. That shift was quiet, but it was real. Isaiah 40 verse 31 speaks into this kind of transformation with depth. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Waiting is not empty. It is active in a different way. Strength is being renewed, not depleted. Even when nothing appears to be changing externally, something is being restored internally. You are not becoming weaker in the delay. You are becoming steadier. What changes most is how you carry the uncertainty. The situation itself may still feel open-ended, but it no longer defines your internal state. You are not constantly measuring time or trying to predict the outcome. Instead, there is a growing awareness that things do not need to move faster to be right. That realization does not come from giving up. It comes from trusting that timing is not random. Psalm 27 verse 14 captures this posture clearly. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Courage in waiting does not always look like bold action. Sometimes it looks like stillness. It looks like choosing not to react when the urge is strong. It looks like holding your ground internally, even when nothing around you is providing reassurance. As trust deepens, anxiety begins to lose its place. Not because every question has been answered, but because the need for immediate answers begins to fade. You are no longer depending on resolution to feel at peace. That peace starts to exist independently of the outcome. It becomes something you carry, not something you wait for. Rest begins to replace striving in subtle ways. You stop forcing solutions. You stop trying to fill every gap with action. Instead, you remain present, attentive, open. There is a sense that what needs to happen will happen at the right time, without you having to control every step. Timing begins to feel less threatening, not because it has become predictable, but because your trust is no longer tied to it. You are anchored somewhere deeper, and from that place, waiting no longer feels like something you have to endure. It becomes something you can move through without losing stability. Yet interactions begin to shift in subtle ways that are difficult to explain at first. You may notice it in small moments. A conversation that once felt tense carries a different tone. A person who used to overlook you pauses and listens more carefully. Nothing outwardly dramatic has changed, yet something underneath the surface is no longer the same. Internal transformation rarely stays hidden. It has a way of shaping how you are perceived, even before you say a word. When your responses become steadier, when your reactions are no longer driven by urgency or insecurity, people begin to sense that difference. It is not something you announce, it is something they encounter. The Bible points to this quiet shift in value and presence. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, and favor is better than silver or gold. Proverbs 22 verse 1. This kind of favor is not manufactured through effort. It grows through consistency. It forms in the unseen places where character is shaped, where decisions are made without an audience, where alignment becomes a daily practice rather than a momentary intention. You may begin to notice that respect increases without you trying to earn it. Conversations become more measured, interruptions decrease. Even disagreement carries a different tone. This is not because others have suddenly changed their personality. It is because your internal posture no longer invites the same patterns. Stability has a presence, clarity has a weight. Boundaries too begin to form in a quieter way. Instead of needing to explain or defend your position, your responses carry a natural firmness. You say less, yet it communicates more. You withdraw from what no longer aligns, not with frustration, but with quiet certainty. People may not always understand it, but they begin to adjust to it. Jesus described this kind of influence with simplicity and depth. Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Matthew 5, verse 16. This light is not loud. It does not demand attention. It reveals itself through consistency, through the way you carry yourself, through the way you respond when pressure could have pulled you back into old patterns. What has changed within you begins to create contrast. Situations that once felt normal may start to feel out of place. Conversations that revolve around negativity or confusion become easier to recognize. Not because you are judging others, but because your internal alignment has shifted. What you have grown into makes misalignment more visible. This also reshapes how influence develops. It no longer comes from striving to be heard or noticed. It grows through steadiness, through showing up the same way, regardless of who is present. Over time, that consistency becomes something others trust, even if they cannot fully explain why. The word reflects this principle clearly. Those who honor me, I will honor, and those who despise me shall be lightly esteemed. 1 Samuel 2, verse 30. Honor, in this sense, is not about recognition in the moment. It is about a pattern that forms over time. As you align internally, that alignment begins to carry outward weight. It shapes how others respond, not because you are seeking it, but because it has become part of who you are. You may not always notice when the shift begins. It often reveals itself in hindsight. A conversation that felt different, a reaction that no longer escalated, a level of respect that was not there before. These are quiet indicators that something within has been established. And as that continues, you begin to realize something important. You are no longer trying to control how others see you. You are simply living from a place that has already been shaped, and it starts to show. An area that once felt limiting begins to carry an unexpected steadiness. You notice it in how you respond, not in dramatic moments, but in ordinary ones where your old reactions used to surface without warning. Something familiar appears, yet your internal response no longer collapses under it the same way. Tests have a way of exposing what feels unstable. They reveal the places where you withdraw too quickly, where your thoughts spiral, where hesitation takes over before you even realize it. But what often goes unnoticed is how those very places begin to shift through repetition, through endurance, through simply remaining present when everything inside once pushed you away from the moment. There is a quiet truth embedded in this process. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. That strength is not introduced after weakness disappears. It is formed inside it. What once felt like an exposed area becomes the very place where steadiness begins to grow. This truth becomes easier to see when it is lived out in real situations. Logan's experience reflects this kind of transformation in a simple but meaningful way. For a long time, speaking up during small group discussions created a sense of internal pressure for him. Even when he had something valuable to say, fear would often interrupt before his voice could fully form. Silence became his default response, not because he lacked understanding, but because hesitation felt safer than expression. What stood out was not just the response, but what did not happen. The fear did not take full control. The moment did not collapse into avoidance. It passed without the weight it once carried. At the time, it felt simple, almost unremarkable, but later in reflection, the significance became clearer. This is how strength often develops. Quietly, through repeated moments where endurance replaces retreat, through situations that once overwhelmed you becoming moments you can now remain present in. The shift is not always obvious in real time. It becomes clearer when you look back and realize how differently you moved through what used to hold you back. You begin to understand that internal capacity is not built through sudden change, but through sustained formation. God does not rush the process of strengthening you. He builds what is needed before it is required. What once felt like limitation slowly becomes a foundation you can stand on without instability. The promise of support in that process is steady. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41 verse 10. That kind of strengthening is not always loud or dramatic. It often shows up as quiet stability in moments that used to shake you. You are held in a way that does not remove pressure instantly, but keeps you from collapsing under it. You start to notice that your internal world no longer reacts the same way. Thoughts that once spiraled now settle more quickly. Emotions that once took over your response begin to pass without controlling your actions. It is not perfection, it is steadiness forming where instability used to dominate. Another truth speaks into this quiet process. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Philippians 4 verse 13. This is not about sudden ability appearing out of nowhere. It is about endurance becoming possible where it once was not. It is about discovering that strength has been developing beneath your awareness, shaping how you carry yourself in real time. What once felt like limitation begins to lose its authority over you. You no longer interpret every challenge through the lens of inability. Instead, there is a growing sense that you can remain present without being overwhelmed by what is in front of you. That shift does not remove difficulty, but it changes your position within it. And then it becomes clear. The place that once exposed weakness has become the very place where stability now lives. What used to feel like a point of struggle now carries evidence of growth. You see, clarity does not always arrive through a single moment of certainty. More often, it forms through patterns you cannot easily organize on your own. You begin to notice that different experiences, unrelated on the surface, start pointing in the same direction. It is subtle at first, almost easy to dismiss, but the repetition becomes difficult to ignore. There is a quiet principle at work in this kind of unfolding. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6. That kind of trust is not built on isolated signs or emotional impulses. It grows through consistency, through patterns that gently reshape how you interpret what is happening around you. At times, you may find yourself in a space of decision, unsure whether to continue holding on to something that has been part of your life for a long time. It may not feel dramatic. It may feel like quiet questioning, a sense that something is shifting, but you cannot fully name it yet. In moments like that, clarity often begins to emerge through unexpected alignment, not through pressure, not through forced reasoning, but through repetition that feels almost intentional in its timing. A conversation may touch on the exact thought you were processing privately. Later, a message or teaching lands on the same theme. Even a passing comment from someone who has no knowledge of your situation seems to echo the same direction. None of these moments are connected by design, yet together they form a pattern that begins to speak more clearly than internal uncertainty. There was a moment when this kind of alignment became difficult to overlook while navigating a long-standing commitment. The question of whether to step away had been sitting quietly in the background for some time. No single moment had felt definitive enough to us, But then, over a short span of days, the same message appeared in multiple places. In a teaching shared during a gathering, the same principle surfaced without any prior context. Even a brief comment from a stranger, spoken casually, seemed to reflect the same direction. Each moment alone could have been dismissed. Together they formed something harder to ignore. The effect was not immediate action, but reduced resistance. The internal tension began to loosen, not because pressure increased, but because clarity started to settle. It was as if uncertainty was being gently restructured through repetition, rather than confrontation. This is how discernment often grows, not through a single overwhelming sign, but through the accumulation of aligned moments. You begin to recognize that direction is not always revealed in isolation. It is reinforced through consistency. There is also wisdom in this process. Every matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, 2 Corinthians 13 verse 1. In lived experience, those witnesses are not always formal or dramatic. Sometimes they appear through ordinary interactions that unexpectedly converge toward the same truth. As this pattern continues, something shifts internally. You stop searching for one final confirmation. Instead, you begin to notice the pattern itself. Direction becomes clearer not because one moment changes everything, but because multiple moments agree. And slowly, uncertainty gives way to recognition. You are not being rushed, you are being shown. Once expectation settles, what arrives may not resemble the picture that was held for so long. It can feel disorienting at first, almost like the mind needs time to catch up with what the outcome is actually saying. Yet within that space, something deeper begins to unfold. The reward is present, but it carries a different shape than anticipated. You begin to realize that divine reward is not always constructed around visible gain or emotional satisfaction. Sometimes it arrives as protection that cannot be immediately recognized. Other times it appears as direction that quietly prevents what would have become heavier later. The surface may not confirm it, but the long view reveals its intention. In the case of Caleb, there was a season where effort was invested into restoring a strained relationship. He believed consistency, patience, and understanding would eventually rebuild what had been fractured. Every attempt felt like it was moving toward resolution, even when progress seemed slow. There was a steady expectation that persistence would eventually turn the situation around. Then something shifted in a way that was not planned. The connection did not restore itself. Instead, it dissolved into distance that felt final rather than temporary. At first, it registered as loss. A sense of unfinished effort lingered in the background, as if something important had been left incomplete. There was no immediate clarity, only silence where engagement used to be. Yet over time, that distance began to reveal what closeness had previously concealed. Patterns became visible without the emotional noise that once softened them. Repeated misunderstandings, cycles of misalignment, and subtle strain that had been normalized all came into clearer focus. What once felt like a hopeful process of repair started to look like a loop that would have continued draining both sides. Caleb did not receive what he expected. He did not step into restored connection or emotional resolution. Instead, what unfolded was separation that gradually revealed itself as redirection. It did not feel like reward in the beginning, it felt like removal. But with distance came clarity, and with clarity came understanding that preservation had been embedded in the outcome. This is where perspective begins to shift. What appears as delay or disappointment can sometimes be alignment taking a different route than anticipated. There are outcomes that God allows, not because they fulfill desire in the immediate sense, but because they prevent long-term harm that cannot yet be seen from the current vantage point. You start to recognize that there is a form of wisdom operating beyond emotional attachment to outcomes. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, as written in Romans 8 verse 28. speaks into this space where meaning is not always visible at the beginning, but becomes clearer with time. The working is not always gentle in appearance, yet it is intentional in direction. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 adds another layer to this understanding. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. The expected end is not always the immediate expectation held in the heart. It is the outcome shaped by awareness that extends beyond what is currently understood. Even what feels withheld can carry quiet protection. Psalm 84 verse 11 reminds that no good thing is withheld when timing and alignment are considered together. This reframes reward as something that sometimes arrives in unexpected forms, not because something was denied, but because something deeper was preserved. Over time, understanding begins to settle. What felt like absence reveals structure. What felt like disruption reveals direction. Reward is not reduced. It is redefined through a longer horizon of wisdom and care that was present all along. After a season of testing, a quieter kind of weight begins to settle into your life, not as pressure, but as responsibility formed through trust. Something subtle changes in how life moves around you, as if the environment itself is responding to an internal shift that has already taken place. You start to notice that passing a test is not the end of anything. It is a transition point. What once felt like endurance slowly transforms into stewardship. There is a quiet awareness that what has been formed within you is no longer just for survival, but for something that carries purpose. The focus begins to move away from simply holding on and shifts toward carrying something with intention. In this space, trust becomes the new foundation. Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things, from Luke 19 verse 17, reflects this movement from hidden faithfulness into expanded responsibility. The recognition is not only about completion, but about readiness for greater trust. There is also a sobering clarity that comes with it. What was once about proving yourself no longer holds the same weight. The internal posture changes. Instead of reacting to pressure, there is a steadier commitment to alignment. It is no longer about being tested repeatedly, but about remaining anchored in what has already been shaped through that process. Matthew 25 verse 21 carries a similar tone. Well done, thou good and faithful servant, enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. The reward is not only arrival, it is invitation, a deeper level of participation in what has been entrusted. Something shifts from private formation into public expression. You begin to understand that growth does not stop at passing. It continues through responsibility. What was once developed in unseen moments starts to influence visible spaces. Influence is no longer something pursued, but something that flows from consistency already established. There is a quiet transition happening here, not from testing to ease, but from testing to trust, from being shaped in hidden places to being entrusted in open ones. What has been formed quietly begins to carry visible purpose, and life starts to reflect that deeper alignment in ways that feel both steady and significant. Before we close, I warmly invite you to join me in this moment of prayer. Wherever you are, pause with me, open your heart, and let's seek God together in faith. Father God, we come before you with grateful hearts, honoring your presence in this moment. We thank you for your faithfulness, for the ways you have carried us through seasons we did not fully understand, and for the quiet strength you have placed within our lives. We praise you for being steady when everything else felt uncertain, and for remaining close, even when we did not always recognize how near you were. Lord, we acknowledge that your hand has been at work even in moments where we could not see it. You have shaped us with care, refined our thoughts, and strengthened our inner foundation in ways that go beyond what we can explain. We do not take lightly the patience you have shown toward us, or the gentle way you have guided us through growth that often felt slow in the moment. We honor you for every shift that has taken place beneath the surface, for every unseen moment that has built endurance within us, and for every quiet lesson that has brought greater stability to our lives. Thank you for teaching us in ways that are not always loud or dramatic, but deeply transformative in the places that matter most. God, we ask you to continue leading us with wisdom that surpasses our understanding. Help us to walk with discernment when decisions feel unclear, and to remain steady when emotions rise and fall. Strengthen our ability to trust what you are doing, even when we do not have full visibility of the outcome. Teach us to rest in your guidance instead of striving in our own understanding. We surrender the need to control every detail and release the pressure that often builds within us when timing does not match expectation. Replace that tension with peace that holds firm, even in waiting. Teach us to trust your timing not only when it is convenient, but when it challenges our patience and reshapes our perspective. Lord, we thank you for the quiet transformations that have taken place within us, for strength that grew without attention, for peace that settled without announcement, and for faith that has become steadier through experience. We recognize that even the parts of our journey that felt uncertain were never disconnected from your care. We ask for continued renewal in our thoughts, our responses, and our daily walk. Let our lives reflect the work you are doing within us, not through effort alone, but through alignment with your guidance. Shape our character with integrity, our hearts with humility, and our steps with wisdom that reflects your direction. We thank you for the unseen growth that has taken place deep within, for the quiet adjustments that have reshaped our understanding, and for the gentle reminders that we are never outside your care. We choose to trust you with what we cannot control and to rest in what we cannot yet see. Thank you for peace that does not depend on circumstance, and for strength that continues to grow even in quiet seasons. We honor you for the journey that has brought us here, and we remain open to what you continue to build within us. We rest in the quiet assurance that you are still working in ways we cannot see, yet we choose to walk forward with peace and gratitude, knowing your hand remains steady over every detail of our lives, anchoring us in trust beyond what we understand completely, with hearts settled in your peace and minds resting in the assurance that nothing is outside your care today and always, Lord. Amen. If this message has spoken to your heart or brought you a sense of peace and clarity, I warmly invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need encouragement in their own journey of faith and growth. Thank you for being part of this community. May God continue to strengthen you, guide your steps, and fill your life with lasting peace, clarity, and purpose as you walk forward in His timing.